right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Holly Marie is here tonight. Tomorrow night, Richard Dolan. Friday night, I'm off. Saturday night, I'm over at Coast to Coast AM. And my guest over there will be MJ Benias and Bruce R. Fenton. But tonight, it's Holly Marie. Holly of Earth Song Healings. She helps people get to the heart of what's weighing them down by using ancient, multidimensional clearing technologies. Holly is a huge advocate of alternative healing, and believes that most prescribed medications are not needed and that through reprogramming the belief system, we can gain back our health, mental, and well-being and joy. Holly has worked with the Caro of Peru, Michael Harner's Shamanic Institute, Ancient Crystal Skulls, Rainbows Are, and the Dolphin Clan. Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. She has been a CMT since 1998 and has studied crystal healing, Reiki, and Theta healing. Tonight, we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about the ego. We're going to talk about the science of the shamanic arts. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what she's going to teach at Soul Tech 2019 in Loveland, Colorado. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Holly Marie. Holly, good evening.
Good evening, Jimmy. How are you?
I am fantastic, Holly. How are you? That's the question.
I'm really good. Thank you. I just came off this amazing retreat and I'm doing really well.
Well, where was the retreat?
It was in Shasta.
Yes.
And it was a reunion of, we'll say it was a tribal reunion. It's very discreet. And I can share about the Hopi and the Mayan, but there are some other ancient bloodlines there that they like to keep a little bit more protected. Yeah, why is that? Why is it so discreet? I mean, that's why I didn't get an invite. I understand that. But why so discreet? You know, I'm not totally sure, to be honest. This is a group that I fell into many years ago when I was channeling the Dolphin Clan, the Crystal Skulls, under Dale Walker. And then I met this other gentleman that is in charge of this foundation. And he just keeps it very discreet. I did hear a rumor that they had been stolen from if it got too publicized. And then I've heard other things that they're just really trying to preserve these traditions. So even when we go into this conference or this gathering, we can't even have our phones on airplane mode. They need to be powered down. There's no photography, no recording, no computers. It's very pure.
So not open to the public?
No. And how you get invited is you literally get a phone call.
Man,
like you don't get an email, you get a telephone call.
Man, you're straight out on the cool list.
You know, I got to be cool on some.
Wow, man. That sounds okay. Okay, that's it. That's it. All the gloves are off. I'm asking questions now.
Bring it on.
How many people were there?
There was just over 100 of us.
100 private invites by phone.
Correct.
Wow, that's insane to me. And were you at the mountain proper, or were you like in McLeod?
I was at the mountain proper. I was there
with 100 other people.
Correct.
Did you go? Did you do any? I'm going to come back to this in a second. But did you go up to the portal? Did you walk the trail? Did you make contact?
No, I did go up partway up the mountain and pray by myself. We were instructed to do so by the Hopi. I mean, we didn't have to go up the mountain. I just chose to go up to the mountain. But it was really cool. The Hopi gave us some cornmeal to go pray with. So I did do that. But for the whole thing, we were at this location. And I mean, oh my gosh, it's like 10 hours a day. And then Man, those Mayans, they put on a fire ceremony. I had no idea I had to count in Mayan to 260.
Can do it right now.
I can't.
I
I don't,
know.
they're like, repeat after me. And
I
then
know. I know. I know.
so we're going through these 20
Right.
energies of the Mayan calendar, and you have to count 13 times for the 20 different energies. And
So
so it changes each time because you're adding a number to the energy.
right.
And man, I'm blonde. I'm just trying to like get whatever I can out of my mouth that sounds semi-similar to what they're saying.
Right. Right. And this is a case of you, who you're a teacher, but you were there as a student.
Oh, absolutely.
And okay, I want to know what you learned. Let's start. Okay, let's start with the topic. When you go there, is there how is it set up? Is there you know what I mean? Is there a program with a list of things that are going to go on, or there is?
There is a program. There is an itinerary that is never ever followed.
Okay. All right.
It's just never, they try. I mean, it's followed, but it is like completely off schedule.
Right, right. And dancing?
There was
I'm picturing, yeah.
We did do some dances. I talked to Rita about that earlier. They're more like exercises. They were very similar to Tai Chi, but they literally come from Lemuria.
Okay, now, okay. That would be an ancient tradition. If you know what I mean. I mean, it doesn't get any more ancient than that. And when you say like Tai Chi, I'm also, what I was trying to say there was ceremony. That when I say dancing, I'm talking about a ceremonial situation. Now we are zoning in on an ancient Lemurian tradition and dance that you were taught. Tell me about that.
So it's okay. So let me say something before I forget. Soul Tech last year, I did this whole workshop on going into the Jade Healing Temple inside of Telos, inside of Shasta, meeting your Lemurian guides. Well, I did some research and I had a theory that I couldn't prove, but I had a theory that all of our alternative medicine around the world, because Lemuria had 400,000 years to develop its civilization, and then it began to break apart. So many went to Asia, many went to America. And I had a theory that all of these traditional therapies come from the motherland. And I got that confirmed this weekend. It is not a theory, and it's not something that you can find online. This is orally it's orally passed down. It is completely in storytelling.
And how many, okay, give me the first one. What was it for?
So we learned 3 different exercises. They're all very simple. No, we learned 5. The first one that you do, you use a taki, which is a root syllable. So it's a sound, and it's like a tea kettle that's about to go. And it's you do this hand in your fist and then you like release, but you're making the sound, and it's to release all the negative energy out of your body.
All 100 are doing the same thing at the same time?
No,
it's in groups. Okay, I just want a visualization. Okay, so this one is releasing. What's number 2?
Number 2 is no kankani, I am, and you make this cross with your feet, and then you're bringing in no kankani, which means I am, and then you build that up, and it's really good for connecting or blessing yourself before you go into a different territory.
Got it.
Like if you're going to go Christmas shopping or whatever, you'd want to practice this to really stabilize who you are.
Right.
And then the last one was pulling in the God source, Inti. So the Egyptians go with Ra, but we are dealing with a force called Inti, and that is the sun behind the sun. And there were two different ways you could either visualize holding a gold ball, chanting Inti, or you could put your left hand on your heart and kind of put your right hand out, moving it out and then back towards you, chanting Inti. And then that brings in the God presence.
So if somebody learns this and who is on the awakening path, right, and is going through the disciplines and is taught these ancient ceremonial practices like this, the changes you are going to see is there, how do I want to say this? Why don't more people practice this? Why?
Because they don't get the phone call.
They don't get the phone call. You know what I mean? Right now, this planet needs this. Right here, right now. This is, we are definitely heading in the wrong direction, and this is exactly what we need to do. What's the problem with that, Holly?
Well, honestly, I think we are completely overrun by ego right now. It's very interesting. The Hopi grandmother that comes is the second time I've sat with her, and she is so spot on because the Hopi can prophesize, right? And we have gone so far off the path, and a lot of it is the electronics. We can't put the phone down. We can't step away from the computer. We no longer just pick up a book and read. We have to have this constant dopamine release in our brain, and is what that's doing. And it's creating this entire external black hole that we just can't get enough of. And instead of going in, and then with all the drama coming out, it is a complete projection of what we're not looking at inside. So we have become completely ego driven, and there is so many people going, oh, I'm spiritual, and oh, I'm awakened. Okay, one, you still have physical pain. Two, you're sick all the time. Three, you can't get along with your brother. It's like you're gaining knowledge. In fact, I think a lot of these people probably have more historical knowledge and more Reiki symbols than I even know exist, but they're not putting it into practice. So they're gaining the knowledge. They're not living in wisdom.
You know what I find funny? I'm just going to lay it out there because you and I are brother and sister. I'm just going to lay it out there right now. One of the biggest turnoffs that I have, let me tell you how quick I check out. Right, I just check out. I punch the ticket. I cancel the check. Is when I hear somebody go, "Yeah, I'm a fourth. I just left the fourth dimensional door. I'm a fifth dimensional being, and I'm progressing, and I'm on. You know what, man? But man, that Barbara chick talks a lot of smack. She gets on my nerves. It's just like, wait, whoa. You can't say that in the same sentence. And there are so many out there that do just that. That they claim to be enlightened. They claim to be a priest, some shamanic warrior, you know what I mean? All of these things. And then they turn around and participate in the soap opera drama.
Right. Yeah. It is the hungry ghost. And it is so much easier. It is so much easier to have your feelings hurt and engage in the drama than to pull back and sit in silence.
I know.
Because and I heard you, I was listening in earlier when you were talking about completely disengaging and everything, and it's this this drama is an addiction. And I mean, look what it's done to the community. It's totally tore it apart.
Well, you know what? I don't think it's torn the community apart, but not yet. But what's really funny is those out there, and it's very singular, that are trying to bring attention to themselves. Right? That the damage is being done to themselves, and they think that that the light is shining on them, that they're getting attention. They want attention. They want attention. They want clicks. They want people to go to their YouTube channel. They want people to go listen to their podcast. They want people to go and subscribe to and follow and friend and like, and it's crazy. That's what they want, is attention.
You worded that way more elegantly than I did. Absolutely. It's not tearing the community apart. You're right. It's that need for attention.
Yes.
And it's so funny that you say that, because when I talked to 2 women today who basically put down or cursed or insulted another person out there who is doing exactly what you're talking about. Look at me, come to my podcast. I'm going to slander everybody else out there so the attention's on me. Well, that's awesome, but it's negative attention.
Right.
And I can guarantee that negative attention is going to give you gray hair, man. It's not worth it.
It's great. And why? You're so right when it comes to part of, I don't want to ramble right now. I so much just want to just talk all over you, because this is something, what I mean is these are things that I've needed to talk about for a long time, and I just, I ignore it, and that's not what the show is about. But this is the truth. You talk about cleansing. You talk about, perfecting yourself and finding the inner self and getting rid of those things. What people need to understand is all of that negativity, all of the finger pointing, all of the things that you are out there doing, and it could be anybody, it's weighing you down. It's not freeing you. It's not making you a better person. It's pulling you back. That is the difference. And you're never going to be free unless you cut that baggage loose. And that's what you teach, Holly, is how to get rid of that and how to cleanse yourself.
Absolutely. And I'm not by any means out of the woods, right? I mean, I still have all my stuff too. And there are so many times that I'll jump on Facebook and I'll see something and I'll type away, right? Like, da-da-da. And then I'm like, dang it, I'm in ego. I'm projecting. I'm in ego, and I'll just delete it. I'll just delete it, because now it's like my tail's between my legs, because now I caught myself in ego. I mean, it's so common. It's so easy. None of us are immune to it, but it's catching it and disengaging.
This is what I enjoy about you, is that and I'm talking about when we get together, our group of friends, when we sit and argue, and you have participated in some of the most passionate, strong debates that we've ever had. But we debate the subject. We don't debate the person. And that's the difference. If you're passionate about it, all day long, let's talk about the subject. Let's get it out. Let's figure it out. But don't do any personal attacks. And that's the big difference, isn't it, Holly?
Right. And I try to be really cautious of that, but they still creep up, they still slip out. You know what I mean? I mean, we're so conditioned. But you're right. And that's the same thing in a relationship with 2 people too. If there's an issue and one person takes it personal, we're never going to move through that issue, because it's no longer the issue. It's about that person.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And, it's just, I've really kind of become reclusive the past few months with everything going on because I don't want to get caught up in it.
Nobody does. No, well, no, I shouldn't say that. It seems that when we come back after the break, I want to focus on the ego, and I want to focus on some of the steps that everybody can do to work on this, and also to recognize what is going on. There's that part of it, but you're right. When I say nobody does or everybody does, the two extremes. For some reason, it's in every segment of society today. And it's not just in our spiritual awakening UFO conspiracy community. It's not just here. We are a mirror of what is going on everywhere else. Society has fallen down, and we've got to figure out a way to get back up, because we all recognize what's going on. But it seems like a big chunk of this planet right now is either enjoying it or they're being programmed, right? And
Right.
we've got to figure out a way to get it stopped.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know when the break is, but the programming is so deeply ingrained with us. There's a really good book out there called, it's right here, Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, and it goes through the 64 gene expressions. And the book talks about how our DNA is a holographic projection of us, and we are actually carrying memories from before we were human. And as I read this book, and as you work through these shadow aspects of the DNA, you really learn how deeply things can be ingrained with us. And that's why when I work with my clients, we work with unraveling that DNA and mending it into a positive, right? And when you mend it from the shadow into the light, which is exactly what this book is doing, it's mending it from the shadow into the light. We can do that with our words and our thoughts. Our holographic pattern changes, but I think we've become so externalized that we are literally creating our DNA, which has to do with all the chemicals in our brain. We are literally rewiring ourselves to be that external projector, opposed to going within and finding that inner peace. And I think it's scary.
Well, if we understand what is the cause, or parts of the cause, I should say, part of the cause, then we won't respond and freak out in a strange way, where we can back up and go, it's not necessarily this person. It's actually this that is over here. And we can relax and take a deep breath. But we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the information about what is actually causing some of this angst around the planet.
Right. Absolutely. And but you just said it, that disengaging, or, why is this really happening? Is what I really took back from this gathering that I just went to, is we're not contemplating enough. And that is the same thing I talked about in Soul Tech, that the Lemurians had the art of contemplation, and we have lost that way. We are so conditioned to just Google it or call a healer or, whatever, instead of contemplating the issue, letting it play out within our own intrinsic wisdom that is ingrained within us. We have our own wisdom, and we've lost it. We've just lost that way, to the point where we are just spinning out of control.
Yeah, there was a day when there were no walls, when the world was open, our neighbors and friends were open to us. We weren't shut down with the internet and information and 24/7, living. It was a different way to approach things, and our minds and our spirits were different. We are now conditioned to be the exact opposite, where we're building walls, we're building fences, we're staying inside, We're not making friends. We're not communicating. We're not doing any of those things anymore. And the ancients understood a different way of life and how to use the spirit and the mind and how important friendships were. Today is the exact opposite of that. The value of friendship is nearly none. None. And it should be one of the most valuable, precious things that we have is a friend. And now everybody just wants to burn a friend. They don't care. It's crazy.
Right. But also the modern conveniences too are really messing with us. Like Marlinda, the Hobie grandmother, talked about, and it's her and I grew up very similar. Like I grew up in a cottage the first few years of my life with no electricity.
Okay, stop right there. I need to take a break. That's a perfect spot to do it. So
no electricity. Okay.
Yeah, no electricity when you grew up. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Holly Marie. We're doing it all tonight. We're talking about you, everybody. We're talking about you. Listen up. It's Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Holly after this short break. Stay with us. You're listening to a preview of Fade to Black. To get the full episode, go to jimmychurchradio.com. and get our podcast. Click on the podcast banner or sign up in the membership area for downloadable MP3s. Everything commercial free. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Holly Marie. She is here. We're talking about you tonight. Let's get this stuff fixed. By the way, I did as I said. I got me some Eric Stitt art for the body. I bought some shirts and I just retweeted it right up there. Go and get yourself some of Eric's art. He's just an amazing artist and somebody that has supported this show and has been there for us. And go. It's the shirts are amazing. His artwork is amazing. Get a poster or two. All right, it's up there on Twitter. Eric Stitt. All right, Holly. Right before the break, you were raised in a log cabin. No, I'm kidding. No electricity, though. No electricity. I know how that. I know how that can be. You know, and I don't talk about that kind of stuff often. But that's pretty tough as a kid. What happened?
Oh, it was great.
You enjoyed it.
Yes, I wouldn't have it any other way. It was only until I was about 7, but we had this generator and we lived way out, like on Morgan Territory Road, out at Clayton by Mount Diablo, and we had to like walk up and down this long hill when it got too muddy because there was no traction, like there was no pavement, and it was just mud. So my mom would have to walk me down the hill. We'd have to park our cars on the bottom of the hill. And it was a long hill. And then my dad used to carry the propane up on his back, right? Because we had a propane tank and a generator, but it was cool. And then we used to put the river rock in the wood burning stove and then wrap it in cheesecloth and put it in the foot of our bed to keep us warm at night.
Oh, man.
It was cool.
All right. Yeah. Okay, I see the coolness in that. I was
Do
talking.
you?
Yeah. I see the warmness in that. Look, when I was a kid, you know, and somebody didn't pay the electric bill, you know, our parents would say it's like camping. Right?
There you go.
Like, all right, this is cool. Okay, let's get the candles out. I'm kidding, everybody. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. But so with your parents, am I picturing a free type of lifestyle? Were they off the grid before off the grid was a term?
No, they bought it is how it happened is in 1976, they bought a piece of property and we lived in this itty bitty cottage until they built their house.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We raised a cow every year for food. We had pigs, we had chickens and turkeys. And it gave you a sense of belonging. I mean, there's something so raw, I mean, no pun intended, but being able to work for what you need. And it's not just a working, like it gives you gratitude. You develop a relationship with it. You develop a relationship of respect with the water because you're running off a well and the well could go dry.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to respect the cattle that you're raising because you fed that cow out of a bottle when it was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so you gain this respect. And so the Hopi grandmother, she grew up very much the same way. So right off the bat, we had this connection. And she talks about how we've lost our ways due to conveniences. And when we have everything at the push of a button, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to order it on Amazon. It's like, no, go support your local business.
Mm-hmm.
Get in the car, sit in the traffic, go make eye contact with the clerk at the store who is trying to make a living that does not want to go on, assistance because you're too lazy to get out and you're just shopping on Amazon. It's like, be connected in your community.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's what that does is when we isolate ourselves so much, then we get on Facebook and then somebody makes us angry and then we get triggered and we grow these major problems because we have nothing else to do, in my opinion.
There's something to be said about that. And there was something that stuck with me that was said to me when I was very, very, very young. And imagine, being told this 45 years ago, okay? Not last week, but 45 years ago. And somebody said to me, you know what? All of these people building fences in their backyard, they think that they're closing the world out, but they're not. They're not. They're shutting themselves in. Now, that never left me, Holly. It never left me. It never... Think about that. If everybody understood that concept, it's not just your backyard, it's your life, right? And
yes.
It's very important.
Yes. And I mean, come on, like a fence, the fence isn't, most people have wooden fences. They're not going to keep somebody out, right? You really literally are shutting yourself out, which is a holographic projection of your own isolation within inside. It's literally killing your spirit.
That's right. That's right. And I always wondered about, there was always somebody on the street growing up that you never saw. In that they would leave to work in the morning. Sometimes you wouldn't see their car even leave. They would sneak out to their car. They would come home from work, walk straight in the house. Right? You would never see them. And they were the strange people. Right, that was the exception to the rule. Today,
right, exactly.
That's normal.
Right. I don't like where things are going, and I don't mean to sound negative, but there are some elders that are a little bit concerned about where we're going, especially the Hopis, the Mayans as well. We need to really, like the last time I went to this gathering. When I walked in or when we all gathered, they literally said, "Welcome to the sixth extinction."
Wow.
Because we are literally killing our planet. We're killing ourselves. And I keep thinking that things are going to change. People are going to wake up, but they're not. They're just, what's the next knowledge? What book can I read? What UFO can I spot? It's so external instead of just going within. Like I get these people coming to me. I had this lady come to me. She got so mad after her session. I felt terrible, but she got so mad because she heard me talking and I was talking all about past lives and I was super animated and talking about all the like bells and whistles of the work that I do. And when she came in, she was dealing with depression, isolation. She couldn't meet a partner, and there was one other thing. And so that is literally what we worked on. And after, I was like, so, what do you think? And she's like, well, when I heard you talk, it was all about the past lives, and I go to all these psychics. And I said, well, yeah, but we have to fix this before we go into other realms. It's like you're depressed and isolated. Like, we have to fix this right here before you travel to some other life and fix that. We need to start here.
How did she react? Everybody wants it easy, right?
She saved the session for her birthday. I don't think she had a very good birthday. But it's when you come in to see me, I'm not putting up with spiritual deflection. Like you can't, oh, I want this experience. It's you if you want the experience because you're avoiding something within yourself that you need to look at, then you're coming to the wrong person. I'll give you that experience and you will get that experience after you fix what needs to be fixed. And especially with destiny, I do a lot of destiny retrieval, which is really advanced shamanic work. And it's like a person, you can't work on somebody who's not clear and take them into their destiny because they're going to drag all that garbage with them into their destiny.
It's something that we all need to take a look at. What do we look for first? You know what I mean? What is it? Is there something externally, actions that we are doing? Is it something mental that is inside of us that only we know about that we're not telling people? What is it that we look for first?
In a session?
Or something internal that needs to be fixed.
Okay, so usually when I'm working with someone, it's like we'll just talk about the surface issue. And I literally use the chakra system as a timeline. So I'm testing out their field, whether it's in person or remote. I'm testing their 7-year development, right? I'm using that timeline. And so wherever the chakra is out, I'll ask them what happened in that time frame. And then we go from there. And sometimes it's usually soul retrieval or inner child work, but it's that root cause. Like I just had this woman come in, and I know she would never listen to the show, and I'm not going to say her name or anything, but I had a woman come in who was going to start a new job and she had anxiety. And I don't know what happened with the work lately, but it has just quantum leaped. Like people's issues are just coming up super like lightning speed. It's crazy. I don't even think we were in session. I don't think I even had her, and this was remote. I don't even think I had her in her zone for more than 4 minutes. I'm like, okay, it's your first chakra. When's the first time you felt anxiety? When I was molested, just blurted out. She had never dealt with it, never talked about it, nothing. And then it's like we took care of it. We brought the inner child back. We sealed in that soul piece, and she was good to go. And so whatever that past trauma is that we cover up with programs or alcohol or whatever we're covering up, that program is what's lurking in every aspect of our life. So for her, going into that job made her feel unsafe, which was exactly the seed of that molestation. She was unsafe. And so it's so important to do the regression work to get people back. And I believe, and a lot of these tribal elders also believe, that once we fix ourselves, we are literally shifting the holograph around us. We are literally shifting out the trauma, and it affects the collective consciousness. We're all one. We're just these tiny little aspects, right? And we want to pop a pill, or we want to do some, like go on a raw foods diet. Like we want to do all this pretty clean stuff, but we're not diving into the actual trauma that's keeping us from actually healing ourselves and the collective.
Is anybody out there not traumatized? You know what I mean? I have friends that I'm naturally I enjoy their presence, right? And they are just magnetic and funny and cool and everything. I have friends like that, but they aren't on this path, right? Is it because that they just happen to have a great past life and a great current life and a great childhood that they don't have anything that they're dealing with? Or does everybody have something that they need to deal with?
In my opinion, and from doing this work for over 10 years and from always being a student, according to the Tibetan monks, there's no happiness if there's no suffering. Okay, perfect. Okay, all the kids these days, they cut themselves, right? You know what I'm talking about? They cut themselves. They got all the cut marks, their cutters all up their legs and their arms.
I have seen and heard, yes. I don't know if all kids, my kids aren't doing it. They better not be.
Well, not all kids.
Okay.
Right. We have coddled our kids to a point where we have shielded them from feeling any pain. Pain is a normal thing to feel. Like if I didn't go through certain points of pain or trauma in my life, I wouldn't be here. I'm sure there are people that had such a good life, their past life, that they're just coming here riding the wave on roses. But for the majority of people, one, they're either not looking at it, and then it manifests into physical pain, chronic pain. A lot of people that come to me with heart disease because it's hereditary, it's like, okay, let's go back and meet the ancestors, because it's not heart disease, it's a broken heart. Right? Like I just worked on somebody, and it's like somewhere back in the line, they had so much poverty that they had to sell their kids. That created heart disease in the family line. Right? Because the ancestors just show up, man. Like they're full of information. Then he's like, I hear him laughing, right? It's like, yeah, you liberated them. We are here to help heal our ancestors. And we are also here, we are borrowing the earth from our children. So it's really important that we, instead of just gaining all this knowledge, we put the knowledge into wisdom by actually cleaning up our lives a little bit.
How do we? Okay, let's stay on this. If that is the case, and I like the way that the monks put it, that there's no happiness without, there's no positive without a negative. It's the yin and yang. It's the universe. It's the way that it is, and you can't change nature, right? So if you're going to deal with it at that level, if everybody has something that they are dealing with, when they come to you, how is it found? I know that you mentioned regression, but is this something that somebody may be conscious of, or do they have to go and find it in their subconscious?
Most people are conscious that something's going on, like something's not right.
Right.
But then the seed is in the subconscious, and they've covered it up. But there are other people who just come in and they're like, hey, this happened to me. And I mean, like I just literally had a woman come in who came from a very abusive family, and it's like she was very cognizant of it, right? But we still dive a little bit deeper into the subconscious and find that very first recollection of when you suffered that abuse, when you suffered that molestation, like when you suffered. And then that's your ticket right there, because you went through all this abuse, you went through all this trauma, you were molested, whatever it was, and you're here. You are here now. And so you have to flip, like the Maya means illusion. You have to flip that trauma, and then they're like, oh, right? Like now they see the gift in it, so they can liberate themselves from suffering. And then things get really, really good because they're no longer suffering anymore. That's when the growth takes place. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today if I wasn't super sick as a child. Like, oh my gosh, so sick all the time. So sick. And I mean, I had chronic tonsillitis all the time. My tonsils are so pitted out because I was sick all the time and I couldn't eat because my stomach would cramp, right? And then I was like bullied and I was suicidal and blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through that suffering. And I wouldn't, right? Even from my upbringing, right? Priming the well. Turning the water off when you're not using it, right? When you're like saving water. I have a really good relationship with water. I have respect for it. I can see, right? Like when the mountains, the snow starts to melt, it's like I have this internal clock that it's like, okay, now we start to even cut back more because nature's telling me, it's showing me where our water is.
Why are we so acclimated to that kind of stuff? Like, you know what? Your car, you're down to a quarter of a tank of gas and you don't have much money in your pocket. So you're not putting your foot in the gas. You're right. You're trying to save the gas, but you fill up your car full of gas and it's payday and you're driving around town, blah, 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 right? And you're wasting gas. It's that way with food. You know, you're low on food, you conserve and you stretch it out to payday. But then when you go shopping, you pig out. Water, it's raining outside, you let the water run, right? It's drought season and then you're conscious of it. We do that all the way across the board. Is it because we live in a life of convenience these days? It's how did we get here, Ollie?
I believe so, man. I believe so. It's just everything is handed to us. And I've really had to take a step back with my child because I was like, oh my God, I'm coddling my child. Then I work with all these like people who had all these horrible like childhood traumas. So then I'm like more protective of my child. And I had to really step back and have a really hard look within and realize that my fear is weakening my child.
Why we got to hit a break right here, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. But we definitely saw the turn in the 1980s, right? Because still in the 1970s, it was a different world out there when it came to raising kids, and then we took a turn, and now today everybody gets a trophy, right? There are no losers. And look where we are now, right? There's definitely been a disintegration, not only in the family unit, but all of these kids grow up to be adults. And now their expectations are different about life and how to respect others, right?
Exactly.
You're raising, you've got your son who is absolutely amazing. But and I understand why you would want to coddle him because he's so cool. He's a cool kid. But you are speaking not only as a healer, but as a parent too that has taken the necessary steps to fight the system, and you've done it with your son, right?
Oh. On that note, Oregon just passed mandatory vaccines.
Yes, I saw that last week. Let's take a break right here. I couldn't wait. Holly, you know, I couldn't wait to get to this. You know, we'll do that when we come back. Our guest tonight, Holly Marie. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, it's all about you. We'll be right back. You have just listened to a full hour free preview of Fade to Black. To get the full show, all archives, just go to our podcast section at jimmychurchradio.com. You can also sign up to be a Fadernaut in our membership area, where we have downloadable MP3s. Go to jimmychurchradio.com. Go Bagley Tappy.